Welcome back to the garage, guys. I'm Damien, and this is the Binder Builder. Before we get started, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button? Let's jump back into this build. These past few videos I've been documenting the build of my pan or my tube chassis for my Baja bug project, and today I promise we are going to finish the upper section and then start on the lower section. But up to this point you've seen me design the chassis, buy the materials, build the materials, bolt it onto my bug, and what could be next? This is. Alright, now that I've got the pan underneath, or the chassis underneath, I guess the next thing is I'm going to start working on the back pieces and the lower part of the chassis, which is basically going to include that 4x2, and then that's where I'm going to mount the front suspension off of. Also need to cut off the front half of this. Kind of sucks because I spent all that time to seal it up and make it look nice, but you know what? It's that snowball effect. Struggle is real. Anyway, but yeah, also gonna have to work on welding all that stuff up. But yeah, that's the plan of attack for today, or next I should say, for this video. So yeah, just gonna start working on the lower section as well as finishing fully welding the upper section while it's bolted on. Again, I'm doing that just to make sure it doesn't move around on me, heat warp and things of that nature. Those the holes that I put in for the body mount bolts are actually quite tight tolerance. I oversized the holes maybe over the size of the bolt. I think about a 1/16 to an 1/8, not a whole lot. It wasn't much because the bolts are metric and the hole is SAE, so a little different. It's just over a 1/16 larger, and I just worried if I welded it off the bug and then it heat warped it all, I wouldn't be able to bolt anything in. So that's why I put it on, and now I'm going to weld it. Well, my plan was to start the bottom section of the chassis while I let the upper section cool from all the welding, but in reality, the welds actually cooled pretty quick, so I just kept moving on and welding it up. And while I initially had the pan bolted to the body, while welding on the bottom, my welder tip kept getting clogged up, so as soon as I got a bunch of it welded, I pulled the chassis off the bug again and continued in a more comfortable position. I did skip around quite a bit and stopped every couple of minutes to let the structure cool. But even this didn't take that long. Once all the seams were welded up, I tipped it onto the workbench and broke out my big grinder. Okay guys, I gotta take a quick second and just kind of show off this grinder real fast. I've had this Metabo grinder for well over 2 decades. I bought it back in the day when I was going through grinders like every month. I used to build a lot of scalp bumpers and things of that nature, and I mean, we used our grinders to death, and they, like I said, they usually died in about a month or two. The DeWalt's usually lasted about this 2-month mark, but everything died. Well, I bought this Metabo grinder as well as a 5 and a 4.5 inch version, actually over 2 decades ago. Anyway, it's still going. It is still going, and as you'll notice when I use this grinder, it actually, when I turned it on, man, it just blew about a decade's worth of dust out the vents, and that didn't even choke it down. It just spun up and I started grinding with it. Put all my weight on it. The thing didn't heat up. It didn't slow down. It just eats metal. Oh, I love these grinders. If you get a chance to check out Metabo, definitely check out Metabo. They are the best. Anyway, back to the build. I lost a side handle for it, which made it kind of hard to wield, so I went looking for one that will work. I did eventually find a bolt that actually fits into the threads for the handle, so I used that and made things way easier. Eventually I turned the bench around so it would throw sparks outside the garage instead of inside the garage. This made cleanup a little easier. After grinding, I strapped on a 7-inch flapper disc to smooth things out. Woo, holy grind fest, Batman. All right, so let me just show you in slow motion, not just a time lapse, how this is coming out. So as you guys saw, I just basically planed it with the 7-inch grinder and then came back with a huge freaking flapper wheel. These things are expensive. But anyway, took a whole flapper wheel. The reason why I did that is just because I could do the whole plane all at once, all the way down. And so that actually coming out, got a little imperfections. I'm not looking to get rid of all the weld or knock it down so much that it actually will create a weakness there. I just want it somewhat smooth. But anyway, on the top, now this is ungrounded. So you could kind of tell where I started and stopped because there's high points. So what I did is I just took the grinder and I just went over them until I have a little bit of grind all the way down. Now obviously the high points are going to look like they got more and the low points are going to look like they didn't get any at all, but that's okay. You can see it going down there. There's the front of it. Again, I didn't grind everything off there. I just wanted to plane it and then I just knocked it down so all the high points were gone. Not the best welding, but you know, it'll clean up in the paint, you know. What is it? Grinding and paint makes me the welder I ain't. So I'm not claiming to be any like pro. You guys out there, some of you are freaking awesome. So I mean, you guys are much better than I am. I'm just a MIG guy, you know, self-taught and garage trained. But so yeah, I just did a little knockdown, just getting all the high points off. And yeah, so that worked out pretty well. Now I'm just going to just hit it with a flapper wheel real fast. Nothing super crazy. I just want it to be, I don't know. I'm going to paint it anyway. It doesn't really matter. But I know that the welds are good and we're good with that. So let's keep going. Let's keep grinding. Good grief. As you can see, I'm not spending too much time on these corners. Like I said, I'm just trying to knock down the start and stop points. Getting to the top was a bit interesting. After a quick pass with a grinder, then a quick pass with the flapper wheel, I laid it down and did a quick swipe of the exposed welds. I have to say, the end result was much better than I thought it'd be. It was time for the moment of truth. Will it still bolt to the stock body holes? Oh snap! I dropped the puck. Crap. I hope nothing bent. I need to get off the phone and pay more attention. After securing the body in the air, the chassis got kicked into place. Oh, not again. At least the stands caught it this time. Anyway, once I got the chassis mostly in place, I scooted the body into the final position. But all the bolts went into place, thank goodness. After everything was tightened down, I raised it back up to work height. Okay, that was a lot of grinding and that was a lot of welding as well. Sped that up quite a bit, did a lot of cuts and jumps to shorten it. And that last few minutes was basically the summary of 2 days of cutting, welding, grinding a lot. I will say a lot. Anyway, the good news is it still bolted on, no problem. I had one hole that was somewhat misaligned, but just a little bit of pressure with my hand, and it worked out just fine. Let's take a look how she looks on the bug. Woohoo! All right, you can see, well, I got some weld spatter on there. I still got to finish up grinding and sanding and things of that nature. But you can see how it's smooth. It's not like the high points that I was taking off with the grinder. I wasn't actually looking to grind much of this welds off. I just wanted them to be smooth. Had a hard time voicing that. I was tired, and wielding the 7-inch grinder is a task, to say the least. Glad I still have it. Sometimes you wonder, and it's been a couple of years since I used that, so I'm glad I was able to finish it in one day and just get it over with. The best part I like is this particular view right here. That actually worked out really, really well. Yeah, that's gonna be really nice. Yeah, super nice. Very cool. Very pleased. Very pleased. But yeah. So it looks really nice. I'm actually quite pleased with the way it came out.
Glad. I wonder if she's glad.
And everything still fits. So now that it is on and is holding the body in shape, I can now take off the front footwell area as well as put in the rear cross member. So I think I'm going to tackle that next. I've been working on the upper section of this chassis for so long. I think, what is it, 3 videos now, maybe 4? Man, I'm itching. I'm itching to do the bottom. So before I close this video out, I am definitely going to do some work on the bottom, which is this. I'm going to create a new cross member across the back, just like this 1x2, but it's going to be a 2x4. It's going to be at the same height wise, but it's going to dip down and then cup over the 4x4 that's going to go to the front. So yeah, that's what's next. So let's get going. So after taking some measurements, I cut my 2x4 to length. And after cleaning it up, I started marking out my cut lines. With the lines drawn, I used my angle grinder to make the cutout. Then the BFH came out and knocked out the slug. And with some finagling, the 2x4 sits perfectly. Now that's done, I'm going to shape the cross member into the boat side design I'm going to use for the pan. Once everything was cut and cleaned up, I put a quick bevel on the piece to aid welding it back on. I then cut out the temporary brace to make room for the true cross member. I fit the new cross member in place, first tacking it up, then final welding it. Next, I reattached the bottom of the box. I cut this off to weld it back on in the shape I wanted it to be. There's other ways to do this. I do it this way because it keeps the clean round corners of box 2. Then I pulled everything back out to fully weld all the seams of the new cross member. After welding, I cut out the forward brace and maneuvered the structure onto my workbench. Now you'll see exactly how the main 2x4 fits into the structure. Now you notice this 2x4 structure is going to be going underneath the 2x6s. This is on purpose because I wanted to create a shallow boat side, meaning when viewed from the front, the chassis will look like a V shape, like the hull of a boat. All right, it's official. The top structure is done. That was a long time coming. And I actually got to work on the bottom structure. Man, I've been itching to do that. I'm glad it's almost done because it is getting a little heavy. I can still lift it by myself, but still, it is. I don't want to make it too heavy, if you know what I mean. What's really cool is this next couple of videos are going to be pretty interesting. I'm going to be finishing off the bottom section. That 2x4 that you saw me put up, that's quarter wall, really thick, really heavy. And the reason why is because that's where I'm going to mount my frame horns, the engine cage, as well as the front suspension, as far as, you know, the bulkhead and the A-arms and thing. That's all going on to that. Once that is put on, I'm going to marry that to the upper section and kind of incorporate everything then. Then the subsequent videos, we're going to be building out the new footwell, putting in the steering column, seat mounts, engine cage, finishing out all of the gussets and things of that nature for the actual roll cage in there to tie it all into the new chassis. And that's just going to be fun. So if you don't mind, go ahead and like this video and consider subscribing, because we're about to get really interesting. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, tell me what you think. Now that you can see where the pan is going, the overall thought and the feel and the size of it, what do you think? Did I go too far? Did I go not far enough? Is there easier ways to do it? I'm actually interested in hearing what you have to think. So please leave a comment below, and I'd love to engage with you in that. But until the next video, I'm Damien. This is the Binder Builder. Catch you later, guys.